Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 20th episode of this podcast. And it's once again me, Nayeef and Martina Geromin here with us. Recently, SBL went to a residential week. So I want to know from Martina, what was your experience like this residential? And what do you think about the importance of the physical meeting and these residential weeks that we do at SBL?
Well, indeed, we were doing our second residential week of this school year just last week here in Nayeef, and it was an amazing experience as always. But this time around, I think it was even more delightful to be with the students because our focus was really on understanding that we are all one and that we are one team and that there is not facilitators here and students there. It's all of us being together. So we always start the residential weeks with an opening ceremony. And this time around, I just asked the question, what do you offer? What do you bring to the team? And what do you want to get in return? Which already set the tone for the entire week. And your question was, what is the purpose of residential weeks? Well, one of the objectives is really getting this team spirit up and running, understanding that we collaborate, that we are together, that in this kind of togetherness, we can really shape our daily lives and we can learn from one another, and there is no person which is more important over the other. Everyone is the same important, and if we really gel and if we make it work properly, respectively, then we have just an amazing time together because we also want to enjoy, and on top of that we want to learn something specific about something which is related also to the place and to the culture. And this time around we went to a winter residential in the Dolomites, and it was based on two different aspects, on sports activities in the morning so that people really enjoyed being outdoors, because especially as an online school, it is important for our students and ourselves as well to realize how important nature is for us, because we are part of nature. We need to do something like that every day, because that makes us then feel well about ourselves, and that's part of the well-being strategy of SBL as well. And then in the afternoon, this time round in the afternoon, sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the afternoon, and this time round we did it in the afternoon. We had lots of different workshops that were related to the cultural background. It was on cooking, wood carving, artistic work with tree roots. Then we had bread baking, we had body stretching, we had crochet, lots of different things anyways. And the students could choose by themselves, which is also part of SBL. We don't say to a student, you have to do this or that. It's the student choosing. And then if I'm choosing and they are choosing by themselves, and then they are really engaged. And we had students who went for long hikes and they learned about techniques if they were to encounter avalanches. So it was avalanches mindfulness experience as well. But to get back to what I said before, so I asked the students, by setting the tone at the beginning, we are one team. What do you offer? What do you want in return? And one student, the most beautiful things were mentioned, of course, care, respect, and I would like that to be getting that in return and stuff like that, togetherness. I offer myself and I expect that in return. But one student, Nayeef, and I was really it was mind-blowing. One student said, I just offer care, respect, and joy for everyone, and I don't expect anything in return. And I heard some rumors, and noises going around in the audience. And I started to reflect on that. And then I thought, the next day I went back to that specific person and I said, you're completely right. Because if everyone just cares about one another, if everyone is just respectful towards oneself and others, there's nothing we need to ask for in return, because it's just there. And I found that so beautiful. And this person, when I mentioned that to the person the next day, the person said, yes, this is exactly what I meant. And this is it, these are the lived values of SBL: respect, care, open-mindedness, not just thinking in selfish ways. It's, yes, I'm important and I'm the most important person for myself. I need to appreciate myself. But if I appreciate myself, I also appreciate the respective other. And that's so beautiful about residential weeks, because we nurture that online. But when you see it happening, offline, when people come together, then it's just beautiful. And when you get feedback from they were not strangers, because those people we were working together this time around were people I more or less knew, all of them, not very well, but at least, coming from that region myself, I know people. I remember on the second day, one of the workshop leaders really specifically called me and said, Martina, I need to give you feedback, because out of my experience, that is now decades of experience, I have never come across a group of students that are that polite, that curious, that grateful, that open-minded as yours. It's been such a pleasure for myself to be together with such wonderful young people. And this was not just one workshop leader, everyone, and said the same. They showcase a different kind of attitude towards life and towards others, which is just beautiful.
So following that experience, I mean, SBL operates most of its learning online. And I think in the past, we have discussed certainly that how can we balance the online and offline life, right? But what would you say about the values that they pick online and applying it in their real world? How often does it happen, or can most people actually carry those as they go into their real world experiences?
Yeah, I think this is always, part of our approach in everything we do. In every lesson we do, we really nurture, as I said before, this kind of understanding. We are here together to co-create together, whether this is in a small classroom context of only 8 students, but it has a ripple effect on how I am. Does it get through to every student immediately? No. For sure not. This is something that takes time. Does it get through to everyone eventually? Yes, those who really want to stay at SBL and see the wonderful value. I've seen transformations taking place, and getting back to your question is that, do you see what you're doing online, also offline? Yes, of course, we see that. And the beautiful thing about the online situation, and again, the more we do this, the more I'm convinced that the hybrid system is the most important system, and we need to meet offline also, because the offline experience is a different experience, especially if you are doing it in such an intense way as we do it, because it's 24/7 and people need to navigate. Initially, everyone is always extremely overexcited, right? The first afternoon, evening is overexcitement of being together physically, of actually knowing and finding out, wow, this is not just a screen. This is a real human being with real emotions that I see. I see the entire body as we see now, online. I just see from up here. And of course, I don't see what's around in their respective spaces. But when we are together, we see that this actually impacts their way of being and their way of caring about one another, their way of asking appropriate questions or pertinent questions that take them further. And I think this is very beautiful to see. And the more we see it, the more we can certainly say organizing something like that is one of the key important aspects of SBL, and we would not want to miss those moments. Of course, there are always situations where students can't come, like whether there are visa problems, or whether there is maybe anxiety problems, but even in those moments when there is anxiety or where there is, more withdrawal, when students and especially parents work together with school, we slowly but surely are able to invite them into context. This time around, we had a student who has not been with us for a long time at a residential week. And it was just amazing to see the transformation of this person, of being a real team member, of role modeling for others. And, one of the students on the second day, we went on a torchlight walk. It was a meditative walk for 40 minutes. Nobody talked. And afterwards, we lit a nice fire around, fireplace. And we drank a cup of tea and we were just quietly sitting there. And it was so beautiful to see that, this kind of understanding, we are all one, was there. And one of the students came up to me and said to me, "You know what, Martina, I need to tell you something. I don't know how much work you put into this and also facilitators put into this. I can just imagine because I see how much work you are doing," right? So already the acknowledgement coming from a student without being asked what went into this, setting this up. But then this person said, "I would like to say thank you. Thank you for creating such a space for students who would probably not do well in a conventional school because we are all so unique. And creating this space for us has saved our lives." Imagine, if you get such a feedback without being asked, I think this is something very, very special. So I will be always an ambassador for any student. If they say, "No, I'm not coming for this or that reason," I would always try to find ways for the student to find a solution to join, for sure. And if it's not possible, to look for other solutions so that the student has this understanding and this experience also of being together in real life, which makes a difference.
Of course, these are all lived moments, right? And they have, coexist and co-created this experiences with all the different individuals who were present there, along with the facilitators. And it's like the community itself is living and experiencing those moments. But would you say that the same experiences or the same moments can get experienced when they're not within that special community? So when they're outside of the SBL community, in their own communities or in their own at their own homes or maybe in their own places or countries or cities, do you think the same amount of engagement, the same amount of understanding just exists, or do you think it somehow shifts because of their environmental influences? Or would you say it's something that is embedded as they go through the SBL culture?
I believe it for those students who really get into the SBL culture, which is based on all those beautiful values that we mentioned before, of co-creation, of collaboration, of open-mindedness, of multicultural sensitivity, of respect, of care, of joy, of flexibility, of solution orientation, of not being judgmental, which is an important value as well. I think that filters through also when they are going outside, and you are certainly one of those examples, Nayeef. You have never been at any residential week. And I would say you are certainly one of those former students who bring the SBL values to the world. Yes, and it is true. I had yesterday, actually during the residential week, a former student also reached out to me and sent me a message and said, "I would like to have a conversation with you because I'm missing like-minded people. Although I'm an alumni, I just realized outside it's a little bit different from within." And we had a conversation yesterday, during the residential week, I didn't have time. And yesterday we finally met and we will now meet also in person. And this person said, it really is so unique what we've learned at SPL. And I just feel such a different person now. And I see that I can model this. I can bring about change in life. We are all craving for peace. We are all craving for love. We are all craving for understanding, reciprocal understanding. We are all craving for freedom, and I think that's something that each person is craving for. I guess, in a certain way. Whatever we understand and how we define freedom, of course. But I think if we define freedom of being able, to express our uniqueness and to bring that to society, then this is a possibility. We can do it. We can do it. And SBL, I think, showcases that it's possible in small steps, in small environments. I don't have to think in terms, I need to change the entire world, in one go. It's not possible, but it's a possibility around oneself. And this is what this former student said to me yesterday. I realize I'm different, but I know what is good, what feels good and what feels bad. I understand now what is the creative energy, instead of the disrupting and destructive energy. And this is what we aim to do. And this is what is so beautiful to see. Yes, so a very clear answer to you. Yes, it's possible also beyond SBL. And this is our aim, that it's not just a bubble and this bubble stays within the bubble, but that we have ambassadors that take this bubble, because I don't think this is actually a bubble. This is real life. Real life is based on this. And if we bring that to the surface, then we have a different kind of working together and acknowledging one another.
So I'm gonna, end our conversation with one last question, which is a follow-up. So you would say that it's about developing a personality that is being reflected outside of the community, and as you live through that lifestyle, people get attracted to that personality. Two of the experiences that you mentioned about the residential, and one here, which I just got to hear from you now, but I also remember going back to the residential when you were sharing the experiences from Finland, and how the people were amazed by the maturity, by their engaging curiosity. And all of these things gets reflected, not just within the community, but I think outside of it, because they develop a personality as they're going through the SBL learning.
Yeah, I think so. What would you say, Nayeef? You've been going through SBL for 5 years, and you are still a part of SBL as an alumni and in different other modalities. But what would you say?
No, for me personally, I have definitely taken some of the values into my lifestyle and I practice it. So it's not just about I go through the learning and I know the values and I've lived through it, and then the next thing I do is that I don't carry it. It's about practicing it every single day in everything that you do, so that it gets reflected, and the reflection is loud enough even when it's silent for people to just get attracted to it. So yeah, certainly, there, of course, as you mentioned, there will be people who needs slightly more time to be a part of this community to actually get it, because even I can talk about myself, even for me, when I first joined SBL, it wasn't that easy because the entire environment is so different as opposed to the outside culture. Coming from a traditional background to here, I think the transition was not like very smooth. It was something different, it was something new, and I have to adapt a lot. So I think adaptability is a big part of being a part of SBL and its online culture and its hybrid models and going to the residentials as well, because that adaptability helps you understand a little better and a little quicker, as opposed to just living through it and still sticking with your traditional mindset.
Yeah, and the adaptability that you were mentioning just right now, I think is an important aspect of multicultural sensitivity. I adapt myself to different modalities by not giving up my own integrity, of course, but by understanding there's different cultures out there, different ways of thinking, different ways of acting, as long as they are based on respect. If it's not based on respect anymore, and if I'm not respecting the others, then that takes us on a trajectory of disrespect, and that's not possible, right? And adaptability, if I'm adapting myself to new environments, then I enrich myself so much. And that's what we aim to do, because then we don't say we need to say that what I'm thinking is the right thing. we just have a debate and we discuss that, and then we can co-create, and then we can listen to one another. And you mentioned also a very important part before, and that's also part of the residential weeks, the reflection part. We constantly reflect and journal and think about. I just have, one of the quotes, I always start my day with something specific to be in the moment. And this quote says, in daily life, we must see that it is not happiness that makes me grateful, but gratefulness that makes us happy. Yeah. So it's really about the understanding, wow, let's be grateful for what is there, and let's then co-create together. And this is the beauty also of residential weeks, because we then finish the residential week, and maybe that takes us to the end of this conversation. We open the residential week, we are a team within the residential week, we learn together, we stay together to acknowledge one another, to find ways, agreements that are good for everyone. So we can't just act as if we were completely alone, because it's important. Selfishness, aloneness, withdraw. We can stay in our rooms sometimes if we need that. That's not a problem. But we finish also the week in style, by sharing again. Sharing, reflecting, and so forth. And that's important, because each moment, if I treasure and appreciate each moment, then I'm in this energy of gratefulness, of gratitude. It's not a given that we can experience such moments together. And it depends on each and everyone how and what we bring to this experience, right? And if we bring this beautiful care and flexibility and love and respect and the idea of let's create together, then it's beautiful. Then it's just amazing.
You know what, Martina? I think that was a good end to our conversation. And I think living with that, it still, again, sparks a question for everyone that is watching, whether you think SBL is the right fit for you. If you still don't think, then I think these are all the evidences that you need to think that it is. Thank you very much, and we'll be back with our next episode next week.
Thank you, Nayeef.
At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can, indeed, bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And as you know, sharing is caring.